Hello, John Talley here with Partzilla.com. Today we're going to be looking at the electrical system on our 2011 Polaris Ranger 800 Crew. It's been sitting up for a while and it doesn't even want to turn over. So let's look at some of the tools we're going to need to pick this apart. Now chances are this is going to be battery oriented, so that's what we're going to focus on first. So there's just a couple of pieces of equipment that we're going to use to take a peek. First thing we're going to do is look at the voltage, and we're going to use a voltmeter to do so. Now you don't need one this high end to pull it off, and we actually carry one that'll get the job done. Second, once we establish what the voltage is, we're going to take a tester and actually test the condition of the battery. Now if it turns out the battery is bad and it will not take a charge, then we'll have to do something about replacing it. And as far as charging what is actually in there and potentially a new battery, we have a couple of different chargers that you can use. Now one's pretty much professional grade, and it'll charge basically any battery that's out there and do it accurately because it is a smart charger. Now if you don't want to get carried away with the expense of this unit, we offer a smaller one that has two benefits. One, it can charge the battery as well. It'll just take it a little longer, but its benefit is it is a trickle charger, and that will help keep the battery up when you're not using your unit. Now if it turns out that we do need to replace the battery, chances are we've got one in stock. So if you would, check us out at Partzilla.com. Drill down to your year, make, and model. It'll carry you to the exact battery that's going to be required for your machine. So we've got all our test equipment and potential parts lined up. Let's jump into this thing and get it figured out. Let's start by opening up the hood and taking a look at the battery. We're going to start with the volt ohm meter, and you want to make sure whichever model that you're using that you bring it over to DC volts, and that's signified by these two lines above the V. Any of the other ones, if they have a wavy line, that has to do with AC, and that's not what we're interested in at this particular point. So we've got it set to DC volts. Now let's take a peek. Now what we're looking for here is a voltage more than 12.5. I can pretty much guess that this one's going to be a lot less than that. So this one's nominal voltage at rest, 6.8 volts. So that's basically half of what we're supposed to have. So what we're going to attempt is to actually put a charger on it, see if we can break the battery loose. Because what has happened, more than likely, the battery is sat long enough to where it's starting to sulfate. And that's basically just a hardening of the cells. Sometimes you can break them free by putting a good charger on there. Other times they're just too far gone. But we're still going to give it a shot. We're going to bring over the larger charger, hook it up, and then let it charge for a couple of hours. See if it makes any headway as far as bringing this battery back, retest it, and then we'll make a decision from there. It's been charging for a couple hours. Let's remove it and then take a peek. I can tell you from experience, the chances of this battery coming back are very low. Take a look at it with the multimeter first. All right, it managed to bring it up to 11.5, but look at it dropping already. Even if we could get it to 12.5, I'm betting it's just going to fall right back down. But to absolutely be sure, let's bring over the actual tester and test the condition of it. This tester actually tests by displacement, or capacity in this case. And we're going to set it to 30 amp hours. Is battery charged? Yes. And just like that, boom, it says bad and replace. So we're going to spool up a new battery and get it installed. Now I've already taken the battery to the dealership and had them fill it up with electrolyte, because when we ship these, they don't have electrolyte with them, especially this particular type, which is a lead acid, and you actually have to pull these caps and then fill it up. And being a 30 amp hour battery, this is one of the biggest that you're going to find used in any side-by-side or ATV for that matter. It's going to take a little bit longer to charge, because at 30 amp hours we're going to be charging at 4 amps, so that's going to take about 6 hours to get a full charge. Don't rush this. Let it get that first initial charge all the way, that way it's going to last the longest. So we're going to go ahead and flip this on. Got it in quick mode, charging. Now we're going to let it sit for about 6 hours, then we'll come back, let it rest, and then actually do a test on it to make sure it's good to go. Now, one of the telltale signs if you don't have any testing equipment is your actual unit. It's going to tell you when the battery is in trouble by virtue of being hard to start. It'll turn over, but when it gets to that compression stroke, it doesn't want to push it all the way through, not without a couple of tries of the key. If your unit's doing that, you need to go ahead and test it and then possibly replace it. Our green light is solid, so that means she is finished charging. We're going to check it with our voltmeter real quick. It's going to be north of 13 volts, guarantee you. Just a tick, 13.1. Now we're going to test it with our UASA tester, and that's going to give us the condition of the battery, and that way we'll know we're good to go. And as predicted, it's good to go. So let's get that old one out and get the new one installed. Whenever you're removing or installing a battery, you want to make sure that the negative is the first thing that you pull off and the last thing that you put on. That alleviates the possibility of grounding out the positive side anywhere on the vehicle. You'll notice on a lot of the Polaris vehicles, they actually have a location if you wanted to add in a second battery if you had a lot of electronics attached to your particular machine. Some of the stereos can get pretty power hungry now. Out with the old, in with the new. Get our strap back in place. Now, unless you're using your machine every single day for work, this is probably the best move you can make. That trickle charger that I showed you earlier, it actually has a harness that you can permanently connect to the battery. That way you can just plug it in and easily unplug it when you're ready to use it. So let's go ahead and get this one in place. Now, depending on how many wires you're trying to sandwich in place, you may need to get a longer bolt than the one that they gave you with the battery. When you're tightening these down, you need to use something more than just the Phillips or the flat blade, depending on which type of battery bolt you're using. Always put a wrench on it to make sure you get not an excessive amount, but enough to hold it in place, because with a screwdriver, that's not enough, and it's going to loosen up. Now we can take our connection for the trickle charger, just spool it up, and lay it right next to the battery. That way, when you're ready to put it in storage for a little bit of time, pull it out, pull off the cap, plug it in, turn it on, and then you're good to go. Let's see if she'll start now. Well, there you go. Not that tough of a project to get done. Well, listen, if you need any of these or other parts or tools for your machine, why don't you come see us at Partzilla.com and we can get you taken care of. If you like what you see, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you can keep up with whatever I'm working on next. We just want to say thanks for shopping here with us at Partzilla, and we will see you in the next video. Y'all have a great day.